The space around Earth was quiet. Too quiet for Captain Jake Morrison's liking. He stood on the bridge of Liberty Station, Earth's biggest orbital defense platform, and watched the star-filled darkness through the main window. 6 months ago, humans had turned on their first faster-than-light communication system. Since then, Jake had been waiting for something to happen. The morning shift was just starting when Lieutenant Amy Foster ran to his side. Her face was pale, and her hands shook as she held a datapad. "Captain, you need to see this," she said. Long-range sensors picked up something big, really big. Jake took the pad and looked at the readings. His heart started beating faster. A massive object had just appeared at the edge of the solar system. It was 3 times bigger than Liberty Station, and made of materials that their computers could not identify. "How long has it been there?" Jake asked. "It just showed up, sir." 1 second nothing. The next second this thing was just there. Like, it came out of nowhere. Jake knew what this meant. After decades of looking for signs of alien life, aliens had finally found them. He pressed the emergency button that would send an alert to Earth's command. Down on Earth, Dr. Ryan Clark was drinking his morning coffee when his phone started ringing. As the head of Earth's first contact team, he had been preparing for this day for years. But now that it was happening, his hands would not stop shaking. "This is Clark," he answered. "Doctor, we have a situation," came the voice of General Kate Sullivan. "We have visitors." 20 minutes later, Ryan was in the emergency meeting room deep under the Pentagon. The walls were covered with screens showing data from Liberty Station. Military leaders, scientists, and government officials filled the room. Everyone was talking at once. "Order! We need order!" General Sullivan shouted. The room went quiet. "Dr. Clark, you're the expert. What do we do?" Ryan looked at the screens. The alien ship was just sitting there, not moving toward Earth or away from it. "We wait for them to make contact. Standard first contact rules say we should not send the first message." Up in space, Jake was watching the alien ship through his best telescope. The hull was smooth and shiny, with strange patterns that seemed to move when he was not looking directly at them. Energy readings from the ship made their instruments act crazy. "Captain," Amy called out, "we're getting a transmission." Jake hurried to the communication station. On the screen was a series of numbers, followed by simple pictures. The first picture showed a circle with lines coming out of it like a sun. The second showed 2 stick figures with their hands raised. The third showed a group of different shaped beings standing together. "It's math, followed by pictures." "Amy said the math part is showing us they understand basic science. The pictures, I think they're trying to say they come in peace." Jake nodded. "Send it to Earth. Let the smart people figure out what it means." The message traveled down to Earth, through 7 different computer systems, each one trying to translate and understand what the aliens were saying. By the time it reached Dr. Clark's team, the message was clear. "Greetings, young ones," the translated message read. "We come in peace to welcome you to the greater galaxy. Please respond with your leadership coordinates for diplomatic contact." Dr. Clark felt both excited and scared. This was it. First contact with aliens. Hundreds of years of wondering if humans were alone in the universe, and now they had their answer. "We need to respond carefully," he told his team. "This could change everything for humanity." Meanwhile, the alien ship waited. Inside, Ambassador Zektar of the Villani race looked at the small blue planet ahead of them. His people had been watching human radio signals for decades. They knew humans were young and not very advanced. "This should be easy. The humans seem peaceful from their broadcasts," said communications specialist Therix. "Their entertainment shows they dream of meeting other species. They should be happy to see us." Zektar nodded. The Galactic Trade Consortium had done this many times before. Find a young species, offer them protection and trade, and add them to the growing collection of worlds that worked together for everyone's benefit. Humans would be grateful for the chance to join the galaxy. Back on Earth, Dr. Clark's team worked on their response. They wanted to sound friendly, but not weak, advanced but not threatening. After 2 hours of writing and rewriting, they had their message. Greetings to our visitors from the stars. We are the people of Earth, and we welcome peaceful contact. We are ready to talk and learn about the galaxy. The message was sent up to Liberty Station, where it would be transmitted to the alien ship. But as it traveled through Earth's new quantum communication network, something went wrong. The sun had been very active that day, sending out strong solar radiation. A relay satellite that was already working at its limit suddenly overloaded. The message that was meant to say we welcome peaceful contact became scrambled. Amy watched her instruments with growing worry as the message was sent. Captain, something's wrong with the transmission. The solar storm is interfering with our equipment. Jake looked at the readings. What did we actually send them? Amy checked and rechecked her computers. Her face went white. Sir, I think we just told them we detected hostile forces and that they should surrender or face extinction. Jake felt his blood turn cold. Their first message to aliens was not a greeting of peace. It was a threat of war. On the alien ship, Zektar read the translated human response and could not believe what he was seeing. In 3,000 years of first contact missions, no species had ever responded to a peaceful greeting with what looked like a declaration of war. Are you sure this translation is correct? He asked Thyrix. The message is very clear, Ambassador. The humans say they have detected hostile forces. They are telling us to surrender, or they will destroy us. Zektar looked out at the small blue planet again. Something was very wrong here. Either humans were not as peaceful as their broadcasts suggested, or they were far more advanced than anyone had thought. Either way, this was not going to be the simple first contact mission he had expected. 3 days had passed since the humans sent their threatening message, and Ambassador Zektar still could not understand what had gone wrong. He stood in the main conference room of the Harmony's Edge, looking at the translation of the human message for the 100th time. Hostiles detected. Initiating defensive protocols. Surrender or face extinction. The words were clear. There was no mistake in the translation, but it made no sense. For decades, the Galactic Trade Consortium had been listening to human radio signals. Their entertainment showed humans as peaceful dreamers who wanted nothing more than to meet aliens and join a galactic community. Their news broadcasts showed a species that was always fighting among themselves but seemed to want peace with others. Communications specialist Thyrix, Zektar called out. Show me the analysis of their response. Again, Thyrix, a tall being with 4 arms and skin that changed colors when he was nervous, pulled up the data on the main screen. Right now his skin was a worried shade of purple. Ambassador, the translation is perfect. My species has never made an error in understanding alien languages. The humans were very clear in their threat. Zektar said, a small creature called Pip, who looked like a walking mushroom, spoke up. Maybe they are not as primitive as we thought. Their response came very quickly. Most young species take days to respond to first contact. That's what worries me, Zektar said. They detected our ship before we even sent our greeting. How did they know we were here? Down on Earth, Dr. Ryan Clark was having the same worried thoughts. He sat in the emergency command center, looking at pictures of the alien ship that had not moved for 3 days. The aliens had gone completely silent after receiving Earth's garbled message. We need to try again, he told the room full of military and government leaders. The solar storm that messed up our first message is over. We can send a clear message now. General Kate Sullivan shook her head. Doctor, what if they took our message seriously? What if they think we really are hostile? We can't look weak now, Major. Lisa Harper, Earth's military representative for alien contact, agreed. If these aliens came here thinking we would be easy targets, showing weakness could be the worst thing we do. We need to be ready for anything. Dr. Clark understood their point, but he was scared that preparing for war would make war more likely. But if we start acting like we expect a fight, they might decide to give us one. Up on Liberty Station, Captain Jake Morrison was watching the alien ship through his instruments. For 3 days it had just sat there, but now something was changing. Energy readings from the ship were getting stronger. "Amy, what are you seeing?" he asked Lieutenant Foster. Amy looked at her screens with growing worry. "Captain, they're powering up something big. The energy output is 10 times higher than it was before, if those are weapons." She did not finish the sentence. Jake felt his stomach drop. "Alert Earth Command. Tell them the aliens are showing signs of hostile activity." On the alien ship, Ambassador Zektar was meeting with his military advisor, a large warrior called Commander Voss. Voss looked like a cross between a bear and a lizard, and his species had never lost a fight. "Ambassador, I think the humans are testing us," Voss said. "Their response was meant to see how we would react. Young species sometimes try to act tough when they first meet the galaxy, but their detection systems," Zektar replied. "They found us before we made contact. That suggests technology we did not expect them to have." Voss laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. "Ambassador, they got lucky. One good sensor reading does not make them advanced. Let me power up our weapons just enough to show them what real firepower looks like. Once they see what they're facing, they'll become much more reasonable." Zektar was not sure this was a good idea, but Voss was the military expert. "Very well, but just a show of force. Do not target their planet or stations. Back on Earth." The energy spike from the alien ship set off alarms throughout the command center. On the screens, the readings showed weapons powerful enough to destroy entire cities being charged up. "They're getting ready to attack," Major Harper said. "We need to respond." Dr. Clark tried one more time to stop what was happening. "Please, let me try to contact them again. This could all be a misunderstanding." But General Sullivan was already giving orders. "Major Harper, activate the Erebus defensive network. If they want to see what we're capable of, let's show them." The Erebus project was Earth's biggest secret. For 20 years, humans had been quietly placing weapons throughout the solar system. Hidden platforms in the asteroid belt, railguns on the moons of Jupiter, and antimatter mines scattered around the outer planets. It was humanity's insurance policy against exactly this kind of situation. Colonel Ben Torres, commander of the Erebus network, had been waiting his whole career for this moment. From his command center buried deep under a mountain, he watched as dozens of hidden weapons platforms came online all at once. "General Sullivan, this is Colonel Torres. All Erebus stations are active and ready. Recommend we show them what we can do without actually shooting at them." "Approved, Colonel. Give them a demonstration they won't forget." What happened next shocked both humans and aliens. The Erebus weapons did not fire at the alien ship. Instead, they targeted 3 large asteroids floating in space between Earth and the aliens. The first asteroid, a chunk of rock the size of a small mountain, simply disappeared. One moment it was there, the next moment it was dust floating in space. The second asteroid was hit by a beam of energy that cut it into perfect pieces. The third was struck by something that made it collapse in on itself, until nothing was left but a tiny bright spot. On the alien ship, every alarm was going off at once. The weapons display they had just witnessed was beyond anything in the Galactic Trade Consortium's military handbook. "Commander Voss," Zektar called out. "What just happened?" Voss was staring at his instruments with his mouth open. "Ambassador, the humans just demonstrated 3 different types of weapons that should not exist. That first shot used controlled antimatter. The second was some kind of focused gravity beam. The third, I don't even know what the third was." Science Officer Drex, a being that looked like a walking crystal, was checking the readings over and over. "Commander, these energy signatures suggest technology that is centuries ahead of what we expected. Some of these weapons are based on theories we have never been able to prove. Zektar felt cold, fear spreading through his body. How is this possible? Our intelligence said they were barely able to travel in space. Ambassador Drex said quietly, I think our intelligence was wrong. Very wrong. Back on Earth, Dr. Clark made one more attempt to fix the situation. He personally wrote a new message to the aliens, checking every word to make sure it would be translated correctly. To our visitors from the stars, we apologize for any confusion in our earlier message. We welcome peaceful contact and hope to learn about the galaxy together. But once again, the message was scrambled as it traveled through space. The solar radiation was gone, but now the communication equipment was overloaded from trying to coordinate the weapons demonstration. The message that reached the aliens was even worse than the first one. Your forces are insufficient. Leave now, or face the consequences of underestimating a Deathworld. When Zektar read this second message, he felt his world turn upside down. The word Deathworld was known throughout the galaxy. It meant a planet so dangerous that everything on it had to be deadly just to survive. Species from Deathworlds were the most feared beings in the universe. Thyrex, he said in a shaking voice, run a full analysis of the planet below us. Check everything. An hour later, Thyrex returned with results that made everyone on the ship go silent. Earth was not just dangerous, it was one of the most hostile planets they had ever seen. Deadly storms, poisonous atmosphere in some places, wild temperature changes, and gravity strong enough to crush most galactic species. Worse, the life forms were terrifying. The humans shared their planet with creatures that could kill with poison, crush bones with their jaws, or hunt in packs. And somehow, humans had not just survived on this nightmare world, they had become the dominant species. Ambassador Chirix, said his skin, now bright yellow with fear, we have made a terrible mistake. These are not peaceful primitives. These are Deathworlders, who have been preparing for galactic contact for decades. 4 days after first contact, the situation in the Sol system had gone from bad to terrible. Fleet Commander Voss of the Galactic Trade Consortium stood on the bridge of his flagship, Righteous Intervention, and stared at the tactical display, showing 12 of the most powerful ships in the galaxy. He had been called in when Ambassador Zektar sent an emergency message, saying that the humans were not what they seemed. Voss was used to dealing with aggressive young species. Usually, a show of overwhelming force was enough to bring them to the negotiating table. But the humans were different. Commander, his tactical officer reported, we're detecting massive energy buildups throughout the asteroid belt. Whatever the humans are doing, it's big. Voss looked at the display. Red dots were appearing all over the solar system, each one representing a weapons platform that had just powered up. There were dozens of them, maybe hundreds. How did they hide all of this? He asked Science Officer Krell, a being that looked like a walking tree with too many eyes, was studying the readings. Commander, these platforms were built to look like asteroids. Our sensors passed right over them. This level of deception suggests military planning that goes back decades. On Earth, President Clark Williams sat in the Situation Room deep under the White House. Around the table were the most important people in the human government and military. Everyone looked scared, but they were trying not to show it. Ladies and gentlemen, the President said, we have 12 alien warships in our solar system, and they brought friends. Colonel Torres. What's our situation? Colonel Ben Torres, the man in charge of humanity's secret weapons, looked tired but determined. Mr. President, the Erebus network is fully active. We have over 200 weapons platforms hidden throughout the system. Railguns, antimatter cannons, gravity bombs, and some experimental weapons that even I'm not sure will work. General Kate Sullivan leaned forward. Colonel, can we win if they attack? Torres was quiet for a moment. General, we can hurt them badly, but they have 12 ships that could probably destroy every city on Earth if they wanted to. This isn't about winning. It's about making sure they know the cost of fighting us. Dr. Ryan Clark, who had been trying to prevent this situation 4 days, spoke up. Mr. President, we need to try talking to them again. This is all based on misunderstandings. Major Lisa Harper shook her head. Doctor, they brought a fleet. You don't bring a fleet to talk, you bring a fleet to conquer. Up in space, Captain Jake Morrison was watching the alien fleet from Liberty Station. The ships were spread out in a battle formation that surrounded the inner solar system. It was clear they knew what they were doing. Captain, Lieutenant Amy, Foster called out, I'm picking up communications between the alien ships. Our computers are trying to translate. What are they saying? Amy looked worried. Sir, they keep using words that translate to Deathworld and extreme caution. I think they're more scared of us than we thought. Jake almost laughed. Scared of us? Amy, they have 12 ships that could glass the planet. I know, sir, but listen to this. Amy played a recording of the alien communication, even through the computer translation. The fear in the alien voices was clear. On the flagship Righteous Intervention, Commander Voss was having a meeting with his ship captains. The holographic images of 11 other commanders filled the conference room. The situation is worse than we thought, Voss told them. The humans have been preparing for galactic contact for decades. Their weapons technology is beyond what we expected, and they're showing no signs of backing down. Captain Nexus of the ship Harmony's Light raised a concern. Commander, our intelligence said these humans were barely spacefaring. How did we get this so wrong? Because we were looking at their public technology, Voss replied. Everything they broadcast to space was civilian technology. Their military technology has been hidden, and now we know why. The display showed the analysis of the human weapons demonstration. The destruction of the 3 asteroids had been recorded and studied by every science officer in the fleet. The results were terrifying. They have weaponized antimatter, Voss continued. They have gravity manipulation technology, and they have at least 3 other weapon types that our scientists cannot identify. These are not primitives. These are Deathworlders who have been planning for war since before they left their planet. Back on Earth, the human leadership was getting reports from deep space monitoring stations. What they heard made everyone in the room go quiet. Mr. President, General Sullivan said, reading from a message pad, our long-range sensors are detecting massive energy signatures moving toward the solar system. Whatever's coming, it's much bigger than the 12 ships already here. President Williams felt his heart sink. How much bigger? Sir, the energy readings suggest at least 50 ships, maybe more. Dr. Clark stood up. Mr. President, we have to try to talk to them. This is getting out of hand. Doctor, Major Harper replied. They just called for backup. That's not what you do when you want to talk. Colonel Torres was studying the tactical situation on his mobile command unit. Mr. President, I recommend we show them more of what we can do. If they think we're helpless, they'll try to overwhelm us with numbers. The President looked around the room. Every face showed the same thing, fear mixed with determination. Colonel, what do you have in mind? Sir, we've been holding back our experimental weapons. I think it's time to show them what happens when you threaten a death world. What happened next would be talked about in the galaxy for centuries. The humans did not attack the alien fleet. Instead, they demonstrated weapons that should not have existed. The first demonstration involved a small moon of Saturn. A beam of energy from a hidden platform hit the moon and made it disappear. Not destroyed, it simply stopped existing. The energy readings showed that the humans had somehow erased the moon from reality. The second demonstration was even more frightening. A dead planet in the outer solar system suddenly turned into a star. The humans had triggered controlled nuclear fusion in the planet's core, turning solid rock into burning plasma in seconds. The third demonstration made every alien scientist question their understanding of physics. A section of empty space suddenly became solid, as if the humans had created matter from nothing. Then it became empty again. On the alien flagship, Science Officer Krell was shaking so hard he could barely speak. "Commander, the humans just demonstrated technology that violates everything we know about how the universe works." Commander Voss stared at the tactical display. In 3 demonstrations, the humans had shown they could erase matter, create stars, and manipulate the basic structure of space itself. "How is this possible?" he asked. Commander Krell replied, "I think we need to consider that these humans are not just from a death world. They might be the most advanced military species the galaxy has ever seen." Admiral Nexus, the leader of the incoming reinforcement fleet, received the reports of the human weapons demonstrations while still in hyperspace. When he read them, he made a decision that would change galactic history. "All ships, this is Admiral Nexus. Change course immediately. We are not going to Sol to fight. We are going to Sol to surrender." Back on Earth, Dr. Clark made one final attempt to open communications with the aliens. This time, he used every backup system and double-checked every word of the message. "To the ships of the galaxy, this is Dr. Ryan Clark of Earth. We want peace. We have no desire for war. Please respond so we can end this misunderstanding." The message was sent using the most powerful transmitter on Earth. For the first time since first contact, the message reached the aliens exactly as it was intended, but by then, it was too late. Both sides had seen demonstrations of power that scared them. Both sides were convinced the other was preparing for war. And both sides were getting ready to do something that nobody really wanted. The galaxy was about to learn why you should never threaten a death world. And humanity was about to learn that sometimes, being the most feared species in the universe was not something to celebrate. 1 week after first contact, emergency sessions were being held across the galaxy. The news of what happened in the Sol system had spread like wildfire through the Galactic Trade Consortium. For the first time in the organization's 3,000-year history, a first contact mission had turned into a potential war with a species that nobody understood. High Chancellor Mexis sat in the Great Council chamber on the capital world of Zentari Prime, surrounded by representatives from over 200 different species. The chamber was filled with nervous energy as everyone tried to understand how badly things had gone wrong. "Order! I will have order!" Chancellor Mexis called out. The chamber fell silent. Mexis was old, even by galactic standards, and had overseen first contact with dozens of species. None of them had ever been like this. "Admiral Kress, give us your report on the Sol system situation." Admiral Kress, the consortium's chief military advisor, stood up. His species looked like giant spiders, but his 8 legs were shaking as he spoke. "Chancellor, the situation is beyond anything in our experience. The humans have demonstrated weapons technology that our best scientists say should be impossible." The main display showed recordings of the human weapons tests. The council members watched in shocked silence as moons disappeared and planets became stars. "How do we know these recordings are real?" asked Representative Thylos of the Merchant Guild. "We've had them verified by 12 different scientific teams," Admiral Kress replied. "The energy signatures are genuine. The humans have weaponized technologies that we consider purely theoretical." Dr. Yeltrin, the consortium's chief xenobiologist, stepped forward. She was a small, bird-like creature whose species was known for their careful analysis of other life forms. "Chancellor, I've been studying human broadcasts for the past week. I believe I know why we misjudged them so badly." "Explain." "We assumed that their entertainment transmissions were fiction. We were wrong. What they call movies and television appear to be historical records and training materials. They have been preparing for galactic warfare for over a century." The council chamber erupted in worried voices. Representatives from peaceful species had never imagined that anyone would spend so much time thinking about war. Furthermore, Dr. Yeltrin continued, Their planet is classified as a Class 12 Deathworld. Everything on their planet is designed to kill them. They evolved by fighting for survival against their own environment every single day. War is not just something they understand, it's something they were born to do. Back in the Sol system, the human leadership was equally confused by what was happening. The alien fleet had grown to over 50 ships, but they were not attacking. They were just waiting. President Clark Williams sat in the Situation Room, looking at intelligence reports that made no sense. General Sullivan explained to me why a fleet of 50 alien warships is sitting in our solar system doing nothing. General, Kate Sullivan looked as puzzled as everyone else. Mr. President, our best guess is that they're waiting for orders. But from who, we don't know. Intelligence analyst Dr. Matt Johnson had been working around the clock to understand the alien communications. Sir, we've been monitoring their transmissions. They keep using a word that our computers translate as Deathworld. They seem to think our planet is some kind of galactic nightmare. Dr. Ryan Clark, who had been trying to prevent this crisis from the beginning, laughed bitterly. Earth is a nightmare planet. We just don't think about it because we live here. But think about it from an alien perspective. We have hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanoes, poisonous animals, extreme temperatures, and gravity that would crush most species. And we call this home. Major Lisa Harper was studying the tactical display. Doctor, that doesn't explain why they brought a fleet, but won't attack. Unless, Dr. Clark said slowly, they're more afraid of us than we are of them. On Liberty Station, Captain Jake Morrison was having similar thoughts. He had been watching the alien fleet for days, and their behavior was strange. They were staying in a defensive formation, but not making any aggressive moves. Amy, he called to Lieutenant Foster. What's the status on those alien communications? Captain, it's the strangest thing. Half their messages are discussing our weapons demonstrations. The other half are talking about something they call Deathworld protocols. Whatever that means, it has them scared. Jake looked out at the alien ships through the station's main window. Amy, run a search through our computers. Look up everything we know about hostile environments and how they affect evolution. An hour later, Amy came back with results that made Jake understand everything. Captain, according to our own scientists, Earth is one of the most dangerous planets in the known universe. The radiation levels, the weather patterns, the gravity, the biological hazards, most alien species would die within hours of landing here. And we evolved here, Jake said quietly. Which means they think we're the most dangerous species they've ever encountered, Amy finished. The breakthrough came when Dr. Clark finally managed to establish clear communication with the aliens. Using every backup system and triple-checking every word, he sent a simple message. We want to understand why you are here. The response came back quickly, and for the first time since first contact began, the message was clear on both sides. Dr. Clark of Earth, this is Ambassador Zektar of the Harmony's Edge. We came to offer your species membership in the Galactic Trade Consortium. We had monitored your radio transmissions for decades and believed you were a peaceful species that would benefit from galactic protection. Dr. Clark read the message twice before responding. Ambassador Zektar, we are a peaceful species. We welcome contact with the galaxy. Why did you bring a military fleet? The response took longer to come, and when it did, it explained everything. Dr. Clark, our intelligence was incomplete. We did not realize that your species had evolved on a Class 12 Deathworld. We did not know that your military technology was so advanced. When you responded to our greeting with what appeared to be military threats, we assumed you were a conquest-oriented species that had been hiding your true capabilities. Dr. Clark felt his heart sink as he read the message. Ambassador, our first messages were not threats. They were communication errors caused by equipment problems. We have been trying to establish peaceful contact for days. There was a long pause before the next alien message arrived. Dr. Clark, Are you telling me that this entire crisis has been based on misunderstood communications? Yes, Ambassador. We want peace. We have no interest in galactic conquest. We're only defending ourselves because we thought you were planning to attack us. On the alien flagship, Ambassador Zektar read Dr. Clark's message and felt like the universe had played a terrible joke on everyone involved. He called for Commander Voss and Science Officer Drex to join him in the conference room. Gentlemen, he said, I believe we have created the greatest diplomatic disaster in galactic history. The humans were not threatening us. They were trying to talk to us. Commander Voss looked confused. But Ambassador, their weapons, demonstrations, their military preparations, their threats, all defensive responses to what they saw as an invasion fleet, Zektar replied. We brought a military force to contact the Deathworld species. They responded the way any intelligent Deathworld species would respond, by showing us that attacking them would be the last mistake we ever made. Science Officer Drex was checking his data again. Ambassador, this actually makes more sense than our original theory. Deathworld species are typically defensive rather than aggressive. They develop overwhelming military capabilities to protect themselves, not to conquer others. Admiral Nexus, who was still leading the massive reinforcement fleet toward Sol, received the updated reports about the situation. When he read them, he made a decision that would be remembered throughout galactic history. All ships, this is Admiral Nexus. We are not going to Sol to fight. We are going to Sol to apologize. But the damage was already done. Word had spread throughout the galaxy that humanity was a Deathworld species with weapons that could erase matter and create stars. Every peaceful species was terrified. Every aggressive species was either planning to attack Earth immediately or hide from humanity forever. And in the Sol system, both humans and aliens were beginning to realize that they had almost started an interstellar war over a series of misunderstood text messages. The galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous thing in the universe is not a weapon or a warrior. Sometimes the most dangerous thing is a misunderstanding between two groups that both think they're doing the right thing. 1 week and 1 day after first contact, the Sol system witnessed something that had never happened before in galactic history. Admiral Nexus arrived with the largest pacification fleet ever assembled, 200 ships carrying enough firepower to end entire star systems. But instead of preparing for battle, he did something that shocked both humans and aliens. He surrendered. This is Admiral Nexus of the Galactic Trade Consortium Pacification Fleet to the leadership of humanity. Came the transmission that reached Earth on a clear, strong signal. We formally request immediate ceasefire and the opening of diplomatic negotiations. The Galactic Trade Consortium acknowledges the sovereignty of the Sol system and wishes to establish peaceful relations with the human species. In the Situation Room, deep under the White House, President Clark Williams stared at the message in complete silence. Around the table, military leaders and government officials looked just as confused as he felt. General Sullivan, the president, said slowly, "Did the aliens just surrender to us?" General Kate Sullivan read the message again. "Mr. President, it appears that way. They're asking for a ceasefire, which implies they consider us to be at war. And they're acknowledging our sovereignty, which means they're treating us as equals." Dr. Ryan Clark felt a mix of relief and confusion. "Mr. President, this changes everything. If they're willing to talk, we can finally clear up this whole misunderstanding." Colonel Ben Torres, who had been preparing for the biggest battle in human history, looked almost disappointed. "Sir, all Erebus stations are reporting the same thing. The alien fleet is powering down weapons and moving into defensive positions only. They're not showing any signs of aggression." Up on Liberty Station, Captain Jake Morrison watched through his instruments as the massive alien fleet rearranged itself, instead of the threatening battle formation they had maintained for days. The ships were now spread out in a pattern that his tactical computer identified as non-threatening defensive posture. Amy, he called to Lieutenant Foster, are you getting any hostile readings from the fleet? Amy checked her instruments twice before answering. Captain, they've powered down almost everything except life support and basic systems. If I didn't know better, I'd say they were scared of us. Scared of us? Jake almost laughed. Amy, there are 200 alien warships out there. I know, sir. But look at this. Amy showed him the communication intercepts they had been monitoring. They keep talking about Deathworld protocols and extreme caution when dealing with apex predator species. Sir, I think they're terrified of what we might do to them. The first official diplomatic meeting took place 2 days later. Commander Lisa Chen, Earth's new first contact specialist, met with Ambassador Zektar aboard a neutral space station that the aliens had quickly constructed at the edge of the solar system. Ambassador Zektar, Lisa said as they sat across from each other in the station's conference room. We need to understand exactly what happened here. Our first message to you was supposed to be a peaceful greeting. What did you actually receive? Zek, who looked like a tall, thin human with blue skin and 4 arms, seemed nervous. Commander Chen, our translation systems interpreted your first message as a military threat. You appeared to be telling us that you had detected hostile forces and that we should surrender or face extinction. Lisa felt her heart sink. Ambassador, that was a communication error. Our equipment was damaged by solar radiation. We were trying to say that we welcomed peaceful contact. And your second message? Zektar asked. Lisa checked her notes. What did you think our second message said? That our forces were insufficient, and that we should leave immediately, or face the consequences of underestimating a death world. Lisa put her head in her hands. Ambassador, we were trying to apologize for the confusion and invite you to open diplomatic relations. There was a long pause as both of them realized the full scope of what had gone wrong. Commander Chen, Zektar said quietly, are you telling me that this entire crisis, including the mobilization of the largest military fleet in galactic history, was caused by equipment malfunctions? Yes, Ambassador. We've been trying to establish peaceful communication for over a week. Zektar made a sound that Lisa's translator interpreted as laughter, but it sounded more like crying. Commander, my species has been conducting first contact missions for 3,000 years. We have never had a situation escalate this badly over miscommunication. Ambassador, can you help me understand something? Why did our communication errors scare you so much? Surely you've dealt with hostile species before. Zektar was quiet for a moment before answering. Commander, your species has been known to the galaxy for much longer than you realize. We have been monitoring your radio transmissions for over 2 centuries. Lisa was shocked. 2 centuries. But we've only had radio for about 150 years. We began monitoring your planet when you first started broadcasting. For decades, we listened to your news, your entertainment, your military communications. We thought we understood your species. And what did you think you understood? That you were a peaceful species from a hostile world. Your entertainment transmissions showed you dreaming of meeting aliens and joining a galactic community. Your news broadcasts showed you working to resolve conflicts through diplomacy. We thought you would be grateful for the opportunity to join the galaxy. Lisa nodded. That sounds about right. So what changed? Zektar looked uncomfortable. When you responded to our greeting with apparent military threats, we realized our intelligence was incomplete. We began a deeper analysis of your planet and your species. And what did you find? That Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world, one of the most hostile planets in the known galaxy. Your species evolved by fighting for survival against an environment that would kill most galactic species within hours. Your entertainment transmissions, which we thought were fiction, appeared to be historical records of your military capabilities. Lisa began to understand. You thought our movies were documentaries. Yes. And when you demonstrated weapons that our scientists said should be impossible, we realized that your species had been preparing for galactic contact since before you achieved spaceflight. Ambassador, Lisa said carefully, those weapons demonstrations were our way of showing that attacking us would be too expensive to be worth it. We weren't trying to threaten you. We were trying to make you think twice about starting a fight. And it worked, Zektar replied. Commander, in galactic terms, your species is now considered the most dangerous military force in known space. Word has spread throughout the galaxy that humanity has weapons that can erase matter, create stars, and manipulate the basic structure of space itself. Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. Ambassador, those were experimental weapons. Most of them barely work, and some of them we're not even sure we can control. The galaxy does not know that. And frankly, Commander, after what we've seen, I'm not sure anyone would believe it if you told them. The implications were staggering. Humanity had accidentally created a reputation as the galaxy's most feared species based on a series of communication errors and some weapons tests that were more impressive than reliable. What happens now? Lisa asked. Now, Commander, humanity gets what every species in the galaxy has been working toward for millennia. You get to write your own rules for how you interact with the galaxy. No one is going to try to conquer you. No one is going to force you to join anything you don't want to join. And no one is going to make demands of a species that can make planets disappear. Back on Earth, Dr. Ryan Clark was writing his final report on the first contact crisis. As he worked, he couldn't help but smile at the irony of what had happened. The Sol System incident, he wrote, began with humanity's greatest fear, that we would be seen as primitive and helpless by an advanced galactic civilization. Instead, through a series of communication errors and defensive demonstrations, we accidentally convinced the galaxy that we are the most dangerous species in known space. The result is that humanity now has something that no other species in galactic history has achieved. Complete freedom to choose our own path among the stars. We are feared, respected, and left alone to make our own decisions. The lesson learned is that sometimes the most powerful weapon is not a gun or a bomb, but a misunderstanding that makes your enemies afraid to find out what you're really capable of. 3 months later, Captain Jake Morrison and Ambassador Zek sat together in the observation lounge of Liberty Station, sharing coffee and watching the first human-alien trade ships arriving in the solar system. Ambassador, Jake said, I have to ask, are you really okay with how this all turned out? Zektar sipped his coffee. He had developed a taste for the human beverage during the negotiations. Captain Morrison, in 3,000 years of galactic diplomacy, no species has ever been given the level of respect and autonomy that humanity now enjoys. Most species join the galaxy as junior members and spend centuries earning the right to make their own decisions. And we got that by accident. Yes, Captain, you got it by accident. But you also got it by being exactly what we feared you were. A species from a Deathworld that had been preparing for this moment for generations. Even though it was all a misunderstanding, your preparations were real, your weapons were real, and your willingness to defend yourselves was real. Jake nodded and looked out at the alien ships docking with human stations. I guess the lesson is that it's better to be feared than ignored, Captain, Zektar said with what Jake had learned was the alien equivalent of a smile. In the galaxy, there is no better position to be in than being the species that everyone is afraid to fight. And so humanity entered the galactic community, not as supplicants asking for help, but as equals demanding respect. All because of one signal misfire and the day that Deathworld opened fire without mercy.